Hey everyone, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, and I'm bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. So for this video, we're going to be covering the next upcoming character event for Global Opera Omnia, which is going to be featuring the debut of Final Fantasy XIII 2's antagonist, which is going to be Caius. Now, we're going to be talking about Caius' entire kit for this video. We also are going to be talking about the EX realization for Null, because Null's EX weapon is going to be making a rerun on the banner that is going to be featured for this event. So we're going to be talking about that too. And what I'm going to be doing for this video is going to be giving you guys a little bit more of a casual presentation. I am kind of trying to mix it up, whether I should do things more casual or do things more scripted. And I think I like going back and forth between the two. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, if you like this better or if you like the scripted stuff that I do better. But I like to mix things up because, you know, just makes things a little bit more interesting. And once again, all of the information that I'm going to be talking about is going to be coming from Rem and the Dissidia DB. So thank you so much to Rem for this wonderful source for the DFFOO community, and also from the Tonberry Troupe with their wonderful infographics and all the cool things that they bring for us Opera Omnia players. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the Caius event, his kit, and also what it brings to Global Opera Omnia. Alrighty guys, so to start things off first, we're going to be talking about Null for the Caius event, because Null's upgrades that he gets comes from his EX realization. Now for those of you that are a little bit newer to the game or haven't unlocked Null yet, in a nutshell, what he does is he does damage. He has a stackable framed buff called Last Hunter that you can increase the stacks by using either his skill 1 or his skill 2, and at 3 stacks, what it does is it not only it improves his attack, max brave, and defense, but he also changes his brave and HP attack commands. His brave attack turns into Fear Siphon, and what that does is if you break the target with that command, his next turn he's going to have access to a free ability usage for his skill 1 and his skill 2. And generally the rotation would go like this. You would, once you have 3 stacks of Last Hunter built up, you would go into Fear Siphon, and if assuming that you have, you know, good passives and you have attack plus 108 and all that good stuff on Null, he's going to break the target with Fear Siphon, and then you're going to go right into his Tempest Strike Plus, because what it does is if he's attacking a broken target with it, he's going to unbreak them, so then that way he could re-break them, and then it gives him kind of a way to manipulate the enemy's turn, so he's constantly setting them back. So kind of a little bit like Vayne, except he doesn't get the free turn and the no action delay. Instead, he just gets the free ability usage. So the character overall had some pretty good longevity, you know, when it comes to that. And then with his EX ability, if you happen to have gotten his EX weapon when it first came out, Null gets a defense ignore, which is pretty useful because there are certain fights where, you know, especially with chaos fights, bosses are constantly increasing their defense when they reach certain HP thresholds, and then they also, you know, might even buff up their defenses with like some buffs. So Null's EX ability goes right through that because it does ignore defense, and then it does have a plus variant where it deals more damage. And let's not forget that the ability actually has splash damage, and it also has overflow, and it also grants him access to a buff called Will to Seize the Future, which actually improves the party's attack and max brave by like 20% or something like that while it's active on Null, and then it further increases Null's attack and max brave. So it acts as an order to the party, and then it also benefits Null even further. So pretty solid character overall. He was actually really good with his kit. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at his realization, because that is the new thing that he's going to be getting. So at 0 out of 3, it's going to be improving his EX ability, Meteor Javelin, and its plus variant, and it's also going to be improving Will to Seize the Future by giving it an additional effect. So now when Will to Seize the Future is active, not only is he going to be increasing attack and max brave, but he's also going to be increasing his brave overflow by 20%, which is good. So then that way he could cap out higher on his max brave and be able to dump more HP damage on enemy targets. At 1 out of 3, he's going to be permanently raising his max Brave by 30%. At 2 out of 3, when the quest starts, he's going to be starting off with Will to Seize the Future for 6 turns, and also 2 stacks of Last Hunter. So it's going to be a lot easier to get to those 3 stacks that you need, because that's where you want Noel, because that's where he's going to be at his best. And then finally, 3 out of 3, it's going to further improve his Meteor Javelin along with its plus variant, giving it additional Brave potency by 120%. And now, while you have both Last Hunter and Will to Seize the Future active, that Brave attack command, which is Fear Siphon, it's going to be further upgraded to Fear Siphon Plus, and the added effect is it's going to be having a Brave gravity effect, reducing the target's Brave by 3/5. So it's going to make it even easier to break the target with this. It's also now going to increase the Brave attack hit count to 4. It's also going to be increasing the potency by 40%. It's also going to be lowering the action delay when attacking a broken target, and it actually now nullifies the action delay, and it does not consume a turn count on the next turn when breaking a target. So it's going to make that Fear Siphon command even better, because now, right after he breaks with it, then you can just go right into Tempest Strike Plus, which is pretty good. So overall, I would say this is more so a minor upgrade with his EX realization, because the character himself was already pretty strong with his initial kit. And I mean, this character was pretty popular to use, especially when it came to some of the earlier dimensions and entropy, because he hits really hard, he ignores defense, and he has really solid longevity. So this upgrade more so is a bit minor. So while some folks may see it as a little bit of a disappointing, realization, to be honest, Noel was already pretty good as he was, so I'd say it's pretty good. It's a pretty good upgrade for him. And then afterwards, let's go ahead and take a look at the Sphere, because the Sphere is something that you definitely should take a look at. It's called Breaking Attack Up Short. So what it does is, as long as you have this equipped on the character, that character will be raising their attack by 15% for 3 turns when they're attacking a broken target. So that's actually pretty good if you think about it, coming from a Sphere. And I was talking to Rem about this, and, he was telling me that this is probably one of the better spheres out there, especially if the character has an A slot, for their sphere. So if you happen to get a hold of this sphere, very, very solid and very good sphere. So overall, the realization is more so like a minor upgrade, because the character was already good. And the sphere itself is pretty solid. It's for any character, that wants to increase their attack. 15% is pretty good on a sphere. All right, so now we're going to go into the actual character that is going to be showcased for this. We're going to scroll down right over here, and we're going to go to Mr. Caius Ballad. So there he is right there. The character has pretty good attack, pretty good initial Brave, very solid max Brave and defense, whereas his HP and his speed, a little bit on the low side, but, it is what it is. And his roles are going to be, it's kind of a mixed bag. So this character is a damage dealer, he is also a debuffer, and he is also a launcher, all put together. And we'll get into that, because I know it sounds like this character's doing a lot, which he is. So we're going to go into his command abilities first, and we're going to take a look at them at their base, and then we're going to take a look at his passives, and then afterwards what his gear does to improve his abilities. So to start things off, he gets Pulsar Burst, which is his skill 1. This initially has 7 uses with a 100. It looks like it has 120% potency right over there, and it's a 3 hit. It starts off as a 3 hit melee Brave plus HP attack. And then it grants Guardian for 4 turns. And what Guardian does is it simply raises Caius's max Brave and attack, which is good because he deals damage. And then it also grants him 1 stack of Body and Soul for 2 turns. And this is stackable up to 5 stacks. And what Body and Soul does is it provides him a Brave and HP regen based on the number of stacks. So the higher the stacks, the better that regen is going to be on his HP and Brave. And this is something that's pretty cool with this character because he's essentially self-sustaining. So if you run this with like another character that can provide that, then you'll actually see the benefits of this on Caius. It's actually pretty strong. And then when Body and Soul is at 5 stacks, Pulsar Burst gets upgraded to its plus variant, where it gets an additional Brave hit. So now it's a 4-hit single target melee Brave plus HP attack. And then he also has something called Heart of Chaos. And this is essentially what the boss fight version of Caius does, because if you guys remember when you guys fight Caius for the first time, I believe it's in Act 2 Chapter 3, when you get him down to like near death for the first time, he just restores his HP by a huge amount. So essentially, it's almost like an auto raise in a sense. But what it does is while he has his hack active, his max brave and attack is going to be increased, and then it also prevents KO and leaves him with an HP value at 1. And when his HP value is at that level, he's going to recover himself, but then he also loses Heart of Chaos. So essentially, he gives you a second chance, which is what makes this character pretty unique in that sense. And now his second ability, or his second skill, is called Eye of Bahamut. It is a 2-hit melee brave plus HP attack. As we can see right here, it's had a 120% potency as well. And what it does is it inflicts 4 different debuffs. Now the first 3 is called Small Max Brave Down Chaos, Small Defense Down Chaos, and Poison Chaos for 3 turns. Now you're probably wondering, well, what does the Chaos verbiage added to the debuff do? Well, all it simply does is it makes it unique, it makes it framed, meaning that the only way that enemy targets can remove it is by dispelling it. So these debuffs can coexist with like their generic versions too, or whatever it is. So that's all that it means. And then afterwards, Caius is going to be our very first character to introduce to us the Doom buff, which is it's called Doom Chaos. So this is inflicted for 2 turns, and if you guys are familiar with what it does, is when it expires, it will automatically break that target. So Caius has access to that, and this ability also grants him 1 additional stack of body and soul, and also extends its duration by 1 turn. So that's one way to keep his body and soul going, so then that way he's benefiting from the regen he gets to his brave and his HP. And then just like his skill 1, when body and soul is at 5 stacks, this becomes Eye of Bahamut Plus, giving it 2 additional brave hits, now at 4. It's going to be a 4-hit single target non-elemental melee brave plus HP attack. So that's pretty cool right over there. So as you can see, he has some nice buffs. He also is able to inflict unique debuffs. So any type of enemy targets that like to, let's say, buff themselves up, they like to give themselves multiple buffs, well, he prevents that, which is good. So he shuts them down from doing that unless they have a way to just dispel all of the debuffs first and then buff themselves. But in a sense, that's what he does, which is pretty cool. And then afterwards, he gets his C65 ability, which is Set Doom Crush. This is pretty good because what it is that it's a 2-hit melee brave plus HP attack, and it also inflicts that Doom Chaos debuff that we were just talking about from his skill 2, except this time it's for 1 turn. So you could strategically take advantage of this. Like, let's say you're facing like a really hard boss that likes to increase their brave, and you're like, okay, well, I know he's about to do that, so let me go ahead and do this first. And you also dump some HP, and then afterwards you'll go right into another ability. So that's pretty cool right over there. He has this mechanic. And then afterwards, his Inferno, which is going to be his EX ability. It starts off with a slow recast. It has a 300% potency. It's a 5-hit AoE melee brave plus HP attack. It does have that increased brave damage, and you're going to be seeing this with a host of other EX abilities. Generally, it's about a 60% brave damage potency increase to a single target. It has an overflow starting off at 150%, which is actually pretty good for a base EX ability. The HP damage is split amongst multiple targets, and it also auto-initiates that chase or that knockback sequence, and it also allows other targets to be launched immediately as well the next turn, which is pretty nice. And then he also grants himself 2 stacks of body and soul for 4 turns, and when it's at 5 stacks, it becomes Inferno Plus. And what this does is it raises the party's brave based on max brave before he actually attacks. So that's pretty cool. You know, he actually batteries, the party, and then he also deals greater brave damage against debuffed enemies. And as we know, since he's dealing frame debuffs, or the chaos version of his debuffs, he's going to be taking advantage of this pretty well. So that is Caius's base kit there in a nutshell. Taking a look at his passives, I'm just going to go over the more noteworthy ones. So his C50 passive is called Hero of Padra. So he increases his initial brave and attack while his HP is 50% or greater. And then he has buff-based speed, which slightly raises his initial brave and also moderately raises his speed while buffed. And then afterwards, he has buff attack boost up, which moderately raises his max brave and attack while buffed. And then afterwards, his level C68, which is his most important one, is Radiance of Bravery and Power. So he permanently raises his initial brave and attack by 20%. And that initial brave is nice because since he has that really good brave regen that constantly gets better with stacks of body and soul, he could take advantage of that because brave regen is generally based on the unit's initial brave. And then he gets Set Doom Crush Extend from his 70, which it adds the following effect. It also slightly raises attack for 2 turns, which makes Caius hit even harder. Let's take a look at the extension passives that he gets for his actual abilities. So when you have his C55 passive active, his Pulsar Burst is going to get Brave hits now becoming at 6, so he hits 6 times. It's also going to tremendously increase the potency, so he hits harder. It also adds a Brave Overflow, 150%, and also extends the duration of any kind of buffs he grants himself by 2 turns. When it's the plus variant, it now hits 8 times. It now tremendously further increases the Brave potency. The Brave Overflow is at 180%, and it also extends the duration of the buffs granted by 2 turns. So pretty good passive right over there. And then when Body and Soul is active, it's gonna just change his Brave Attack to Brave Attack Plus. So it's a better version of his Brave Attack. So it's a 2-hit Brave Attack with a little bit of a higher potency. And same thing with his HP attack. It changes it to HP Attack Plus, which is a 2-hit melee Brave plus HP attack. Now when Body and Soul is at 3 stacks or above, which is where you want Caius to be at, it's going to become Brave Attack Plus Plus, which is a 4-hit Brave Attack with a higher potency, and then his HP attack is going to turn into HP Attack Plus Plus, and you're actually going to find yourself using this command quite often, because Caius himself actually has low ability count, so you kind of have to outweigh your options when you're trying to get to his EX ability, and it's a little unfortunate that his EX ability is on the slow category at start, so you're going to be using this a bit, but just kind of outweigh when you have to use his abilities and you want to use this. But what this is that it's a 3-hit Brave plus HP attack, and it does have an overflow of 120%. So it's a decent option if you're looking for a way, to dump some HP damage without having to rely on your skills. Now his Eye of Bahamut extension is going to be giving him an additional usage on his skill 2. It's going to be giving him added Brave hits up to 4 on the base version, also increasing the potency, giving him a Brave Overflow of 150%. Dealing 20% HP damage to non-targets, which is great, and also inflicts the debuffs on all enemies this time, which is good. And then the plus variant increases the Brave hit to 6, greatly further increases the potency, and then it also has that 150% Brave Overflow, and now it deals 50% HP splash damage to non-targets, and inflicts debuffs on all enemies as well. So very good upgrades coming from his 55 and his 60 passives. Now let's go ahead and move on to his gear right over here. So we got the Bloomstone. So the Bloomstone is going to be giving you an additional usage of that Set Doom Crush, and it's also going to be increasing the duration effects of the attack up for an additional 2 turns. So now Caius is going to benefit from that for 4 turns. And we're going to take a look at his gear right over here first. So pretty much if you're going to be building up a character, you're generally going to be going through all of their armor, so I really won't be covering this, but this is essentially what it gets. Initial Brave, increase initial Brave and attack, increase HP and defense, and further increase to his initial Brave and max Brave. So that's what his actual armors do. But the most important ones are right over here. So his 15 CP is going to be further increasing the Brave potency for his skill 1 Pulsar Burst and his plus variant. It's also going to improve the effects of Guardian, so he's going to be getting a little bit more attack and max Brave off of the effects of Guardian. And now when you use his skill 1, he's going to be granting himself 1 additional stack of Body and Soul, which is nice. And then his 35 CP is going to be increasing the potency of Eye of Bahamut and its plus variant. It's also going to be extending the duration of those unique max Brave down, defense down, and poison by 3 turns, and also will be granting an additional stack of Body and Soul. And then here is his EX weapon at base. So at 1 LB, it's going to slightly increase the damage of his Inferno and the plus variant. At 2, it's going to be granting Curse of Eternity, which is another unique buff for 6 turns. And what this does is it raises his initial and max Brave, and it also extends the duration of any self-granted buffs that he gives to himself for 2 turns. So that's nice. That's very, very good. So then that way you can keep his buffs going, especially that Body and Soul, because you want that to be active on him as much as possible. And then finally, at 3 out of 3, it's going to be raising the recast speed. So this is going to be raising it from slow to slightly slow. I would still like it to be faster, but it is what it is. It's actually a pretty powerful EX since you do get that auto launch and that really good stuff right over there. So now that when we come to the realization, this is what the realization is going to be doing. So it's going to be further improving his EX ability Inferno. So 0 out of 3, it's going to get a tremendous Brave potency increase to Inferno and the plus variant. It's also going to be increasing the max Brave overflow. And then now when he's using his Brave attack or Brave attack plus plus, it's going to be increasing the potency there. And then if he breaks a target or he's attacking a broken target with Brave attack plus or plus plus, it's going to be granting him 1 1 additional stack of body and soul. So this is nice. This is one way for him to grant himself 1 stack of body and soul without having to worry about, depleting his skill usage. And then when he's using HP attack plus or plus plus, same thing. He's going to be getting a moderately raised brave potency, and then he's also going to be granting himself an additional stack of body and soul if he breaks the target or he's already attacking a broken target. Now, 1 out of 3, he's going to get that permanent increase to his max brave and attack. 2 out of 3, when he starts the quest, he's going to be granting himself Curse of Eternity and Guardian for 6 turns, and as well as 3 stacks of Body and Soul for 4 turns. So that's pretty good, because now he's going to have access to that HP attack plus plus, which what I was telling you guys earlier, you're going to be kind of cycling, you're going to be using that ability quite often, just because you don't want this character to quickly run out of his abilities, because while they are pretty good, he doesn't have, his longevity is a little bit questionable in that sense. And then afterwards, at 3 out of 3, Inferno and Inferno Plus is going to be further upgraded. So now it's going to become a 4-hit AoE melee brave plus HP attack that is triggered twice, which is pretty nice. It's also going to be raising the brave based on 20% of the HP damage dealt after the first HP attack. So he's going to be healing his brave before he actually initiates the second attack. So that's nice. It's also going to be delaying the target by 1 turn. So that's always nice to have. We can never have too many delay users right over here. It's also going to be further increasing the brave potency of both Inferno and Inferno Plus. So that is what the 3 out of 3 realization is going to be doing for Caius. And then afterwards, the sphere itself is another A-type sphere called Full HP Base Attack Up. So when you raise his, when his HP is at max, whenever this equipped character is at max HP, they're going to be raising their initial brave and attack by 5%. But this is actually pretty good for Caius, because if you think about it, the higher his initial brave, his brave regen coming from body and soul can actually help him out there a little bit. And then taking a look at his artifact passive, so I want to go to this character's artifact passives. So right over here, he gets Mighty Pulsar Burst 2-star and Mighty Eye of Bahamut 2-star. So if you happen to roll these, they're decent. But the ones that you really are going to want, I would say this character would definitely benefit more from just the standard attack 108 and max brave plus 330. Hero of Prada Boost 2-star is kind of tempting because, it raises initial brave and attack by 5% when HP is at least 50% of max. But since you're already going to be benefiting so much from his body and soul, there's really no need to further improve the brave regen because it's coming off of his initial brave. So I would much rather just go for attack plus 108 and max brave plus 330. And I would probably do the same thing for Null, going back, touching up a little bit on Null, but that's just me. So yeah, attack plus 108 and max brave plus 330 for Caius. So that is everything that this character is going to be bringing. So what are my thoughts on this character? Because we are going to be getting a banner featuring Caius, all of Caius's gear's debut, and also it's going to be featuring the rerun of Null's EX weapon. So Null's EX weapon with its realization, as we saw, is more of a minor upgrade. If you already have the character built, it's gonna, giving him some nice upgrades, but since the character was already pretty solid, just don't expect anything too crazy out of the realization, as we just covered. Caius himself, so let's take a look at his pros. He can shut down enemies that like to buff themselves, provided that they don't dispel the debuffs first, because we're going to be seeing some boss fights where they like to dispel all the debuffs off them, and then they buff themselves, and you're just kind of like, oh great. But he is good for that. He's good at shutting down bosses that like to buff themselves, as long as they don't dispel. He has launch, okay, so we can rely on him for a little bit of launching. He has some pretty decent damage output, and he has that Doom mechanic, which can come very handy as long as you strategically, use it when the time is right. So if a boss is about to do some like crazy brave heal and unleash like a powerful attack, you can kind of just time it right when you want to place that. Now you want to use this character with some kind of a battery. Especially like another character that I can think of that could work well with him is Selfie, because Selfie increases the recast speed of everybody's EX ability, and as you can see, Caius is at full LB is at a slightly slow, so it's not necessarily the fastest, which is, I believe, this is what I think is the selling point for this character, is that EX weapon, because it auto launches and then it allows you to launch the other targets, and it deals a pretty decent amount of damage, and it has a delay if you're going to be realizing it, so it's pretty good. So those are the pros of the characters. Now the cons of the character, he does a little too much for his own good, in my opinion. He's a mixed bag, so he's dealing damage, he's debuffing, and he is also launching. But he doesn't particularly do any of those too great compared to some other characters that we may already have, such as if you want a launcher, well, there's Lael, who could do that too, and he does it at a much more consistent rate because Caius's, EX ability has that slow recharge rate or that recast rate, right? His debuffs have really low potency. I mean, small max Brave down. Yeah, it's frame, that's cool and all, but small. There's better characters already that could fulfill this role even better, such as Lilithette, for example. Even though hers aren't framed, the potencies are higher, or you have a character like Ramza who can also act like as a support with his Enervate, and he has that triple break debuff, which, that's pretty good right over there, right? So his debuffs are so-so, they're at a low potency, and then also the character's longevity, because if ideally you want this character to be spamming that EX ability because of the the launch mechanic, which can come in handy, and also the amount of damage it deals, but at the same time it's slow. So if he's spamming abilities, he's gonna run out of steam. So unless you pair him up with somebody like Selphie, you're kind of stuck using that HP attack plus command, which is pretty decent. It's solid, but it's not necessarily, the best thing to go for. So again, the character just kind of does a little too much. He's great for new players, and he's great if you're missing out on another melee damage unit that can do other things, but he doesn't necessarily bring anything particularly that's meta breaking or anything that's like, wow, this character is amazing, I need to have this character. But he's solid. I'm gonna say this character is very, very solid. So if you decide to pull for the character, he is pretty solid, he is good. Just don't expect too much from him, and I will let you know if you guys are looking for a better launcher. We're going to be seeing a character named Keese, who a lot of players have already been talking about this character, who is a significantly better launcher if you're looking for a character that does that specifically. And I know Caius has the Doom buff. He has that, that nice, re-raise effect with that, was it Heart of Chaos effect that he has. But even then, I feel like the character is just a little bit too complicated. He does a little bit too much and nothing particularly good as other characters. So my thoughts is I would pass unless the character is your favorite or unless you're a newer player. But if you decide to pull for him, he is solid. He does a lot. He can serve you well in the Chaos era for Opera Omnia. So that's going to be my overall thoughts about this event. I don't have a gameplay to show you as far as like the Chaos boss fight, because the lost chapters for the JP version of Caius hasn't come out yet, so I don't have footage for that. So unfortunately, I won't be able to cover that, but at least I'll be able to cover the character for you guys and give you guys my thoughts, with the face cam and all, kind of make it a little bit more casual. So let me know what you guys think about the character and if you're going to be pulling for him or not. I know there's a lot of you guys that like this character, which he's pretty cool. When he was first introduced in 13.2 and I played through 13.2, I thought it was a cool character too. So I might throw some tickets here or there, but I'm not going to go too ham for this character. But if he's your favorite, again, go for it. He's solid. He has debuffs. He has the launch. He has some decent damage. So a lot of tools under his belt right over there. Alright guys, well, this video has gone on long enough. Hopefully, again, you enjoyed this style of presentation. I'm going to be mixing it up between this and scripting. So let me know what you guys think of Caius, if you're going to be pulling, and stay tuned for the next video. And to Mahal, everyone.